Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. The market is looking great today. Lots of upwards movement from the SPY and a lot of other companies. We have Enphase stock going absolutely crazy this morning. It is blasting to the upside off of pretty awesome earnings. Yesterday, they closed right around $144.50 per share. And in pre-market today, they're all the way up to over $180. So it's definitely going to be a big day for Enphase and a lot of other stocks.
Yeah, it really is. And Enphase had those amazing earnings come out yesterday. That was awesome to see that they came out with great guidance and they had good revenue for this year also. So overall, they're moving in a great way. Even at market open here, Mike, look at them getting this nice 5-minute candle all the way up to 183 now. Really good movement from market open. And usually we don't see stocks continuing in such an upwards fashion when they're already up 20% like this. But man, this one had some great earnings come out.
Yeah, that is insane, Tom. It still wants more. It's trying to go up even more. So in terms of resistance, what levels do we have to watch?
Yeah, honestly, we're right around $180. Even though we did shoot up there at market open, we can see that it is having some trouble staying up. So I would say that 180 is going to probably pose as a pretty big resistance here until we can stay above it for a few minutes and start forming a good support there. I think 180 will be a pretty big level to look at. Let's look at it in a 180-day 4-hour chart to get a better idea. And yeah, 180 is a huge level. Of course, we've had tons of bounces there in the past. Past 180, the next major one I'm seeing is up around 190. And then after that, we can just look at $200. But man, it's definitely getting explosive here.
Sounds good. Lots of great movement today. Oh yeah, that's another one, Tom. I wanted to check in on Corsair. So they reported earnings after the bell yesterday. They were all over the place. They actually had a really good day yesterday, but it looks like it's falling back down a little bit. But that after-hours movement was crazy.
It was all over the place. We initially started running up and, I was pretty happy when I saw it get up to $22. And then 5 minutes later, we're all the way back down to $18. So definitely all over the place here. Sometimes whenever stocks do this, they just end up going flat for the next couple of weeks. So we'll have to see how this one ends up moving. But, it was decent to see that their outlook was okay. I know that they weren't expected to show any huge growth over the next year or anything, but at the same time, at least they're not going to fall off. So looking at it, I think it's still a solid play, especially if you're looking at them for the longer term. But in the shorter term, I feel like this one's just going to probably end up being flat.
Sounds good. All right, so looking at my favorite stock, DraftKings, that's also in the green today. It's up around 1.3%, which isn't bad. It's been on a pretty nice uptrend lately, so that's always good to see. But it looks like we're lingering just below that $22.75 resistance level. But all in all, I would say it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I would say so too. It looks pretty bullish today. I like the setup. And if we can break those pre-market highs, I think that we'll be heading right back up to that major resistance and then possibly even up to $24. We've been waiting for DraftKings to move for a long time, and they've been bouncing on this $21 support a lot over the past couple of weeks. So definitely eye this one up. I think it'll be a fun one to watch. And then, Mike, looking at the growth stocks like DraftKings, we have other ones like RUN up 8.8%. They're starting to break out in a pretty major way. They're in a pretty similar setup to DraftKings too in the way that they look on the chart. But yeah, runs up. We even have Tilray moving, and then XPEV or XPEV is starting to run up in a pretty huge way as well.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about today, Tom. So let's start off with Run really quickly. So Run is definitely moving in sympathy with Enphase because, of course, Enphase reported those amazing earnings. They beat on the top and bottom line, and they're up over 20%. Now, it looks like they're coming back down right now, but either way, it is bringing up other solar stocks, just like FSLR, so that's good to see. But, yeah, these solar companies have definitely been struggling lately, and I will say this great earnings report from Enphase will definitely help.
Yeah, it really will, and I hope that it starts to bring a lot of momentum back to these lower price stocks like RUN and etc. I know it's definitely going to help out First Solar and stuff like that, but I'm really glad to see this one running up ever since the closing of yesterday. It was really nice to see, especially considering that RUN was kind of lagging behind the growth stocks yesterday. A few growth stocks had pretty good movement yesterday, and RUN was just very flat. So really happy to see this one going. It's been a long time since we've seen, I think, RUN start to really get up there in a major way. And like I said, XPEV is also starting to break out in a major way. And, this one's kind of, it's a Chinese EV company. So it just seems like those EVs are starting to pop up today. We have XPEV running, we have Lucid up, and I'm sure NIO might not be doing too bad with the rest of them running.
True. All right, and then you also mentioned the MJ companies. So, Tilray is up a decent amount. It's up like 4%, but I know like the MJ companies have been doing pretty decent. I know Canopy Growth reported, and I think that's what's kind of leading the way for all of these other companies. I believe I saw some news related to Sundial or SNDL yesterday in the Discord, but all in all, I mean, they're definitely running.
Yeah, they are. Sundial had a pretty good pop yesterday at market close, so that could definitely be another reason why. And yeah, CGC, like you said, they reported earnings this morning, and it looks like they're popping up in a pretty good way. They're up 9.5%. Now, this stock has been all over the place the past couple of years. We can see it's been falling down quite a bit. So even though it's up 10% today, it still has a long way to go until recovery. But looking at it, it's good to see it starting to move up. And if we're able to break out above some of these highs like $9 or $10, I think that some of these marijuana stocks might start to go back up, Mike. They've been in such a downward spiral. We just need some good legislation or something to come out. And people expected the Biden administration to kind of help the marijuana sector, but he just ended up not really helping it too much. If anything, he ended up making it go down over the past 6 months because he ended up, firing a lot of people who had used it in his cabinet.
Interesting. Yeah, and then George, he just got the news I was talking about for Sundial. He said Sundial was granted a 180-day extension by Nasdaq to regain compliance with minimum bid rules. So, yeah, basically the stock has been doing pretty bad, and it sounds like they might get kicked off the Nasdaq, which is never a good sign. But Tom, kind of like you said, like all of these MJ stocks, whether you're looking at Sundial or CGC or Tilray or anything else, it's been really, really tough for them. And I don't follow this industry too much. I definitely think the industry has growth potential, but from all of the research I've done, it seems like the regulations are too much or way too much in order for these businesses to be profitable right now. I've heard that like the taxes and the regulations and all of that is just like eating away like almost all of the profit. So I probably will be an investor in this industry at some point in the future, but I just need to like these companies are just in really bad positions.
Yeah, they are. And another thing to think about with a lot of these companies is that a lot of these companies are also in Canada. Like Tilray is pretty much based in Canada, along with CGC. I think ACB is also in Canada. So there's just so many different, marijuana companies, and they all have a lot of issues going on, kind of like what Mike said. And one interesting thing is that, these marijuana companies, they were flying up. And then as soon as Canada legalized marijuana, these stocks started really tanking off in a major way. Whether it's ACB, CGC, Tilray, they all moved pretty much the same way at that time when marijuana was going crazy, and then they all kind of tanked off. So pretty crazy to see that. Hopefully we start to get some good legislation. I think that'll give these stocks some hype, and it might bring some investors back in. But definitely I see what you're saying, Mike. It's a play that personally I'm not looking at too much right now. I've played these stocks a ton in the past, but one stock I do like for the longer term is PLNHF. This is Planet 13, and they have a huge dispensary, I guess, in Las Vegas. And I think they've been growing and kind of expanding to like California and other states like that. So I do like this one. But like you said, I mean, we're just going to have to look at those fundamentals because it's just been brutal the past couple of years. And it's definitely a play for the future.
Yeah, and like when it rains, it pours, Tom. Like we know, like when you have your stock struggling, like it makes it harder to raise capital, and like there's just so many I guess you can say how do I word this, like when things are going bad, it just seems to get worse. So hopefully we see a turnaround. And related to SNDL specifically, we have George saying, the Nasdaq extension will allow the company to regain compliance if the bid price for SNDL stock closes above $1 per share for a minimum of 10 consecutive trading days before August 8th. So before August 8th, we need SNDL to close above or at or above $1 10 trading days in a row, or else they're gone from the Nasdaq.
Yeah, I remember I used to worry about this a lot when I first started trading, Mike. Remember whenever we saw those shipping companies like Top Ships and different companies like that? They were like those small penny stocks that would have like huge pump and dumps and stuff. I remember a lot of those were having trouble staying on the market as well. And it's just crazy to see that Sundial's having issues now. So hopefully they can get up above $1. But I mean, I'll be honest, they're at 53 cents now. They're going to have like 100% increase here.
No doubt. It's going to be tough. But yeah, I mean, Tom, looking at some of the movers we have today, I know you mentioned XPEV a little bit ago. So I don't really follow this one too much, but how's it looking?
Yeah, I don't follow it too much either, but it is exploding up in a major way. I mean, I don't know if they got any good news or anything. They must have. I'm going to search on the Thinkorswim news tab right now. It says XPeng shares to be included in the Shenzhen. It's a very strange word. Hong Kong Stock Connections program. So that sounds good if it's included in that program. I'll have to read into exactly what that program does, but definitely sounds good. And either way, I mean, the stock is up in a major way. We're up 10%. We're gapping up on that daily chart, and there's just so much momentum coming into this one. It's so nice to see this stock up, because if we look at it over the past couple of months, it's been getting beaten down pretty bad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been rough. But yeah, I mean, looking at some of the other plays today, most of my watch list is in the green. Let's see. Square's looking pretty good today. It's definitely breaking out. It's up just under 4%. It's looking pretty good. We're getting really close to that resistance it touched in pre-market. Just under 108. It's like 107.75. But besides that, it's looking pretty good. Even with the, I guess you can say, relatively bad news with Apple's, Apple's update about turning your phone into a mini POS system.
Yeah, you're right. That is pretty good to see them running up after that, because yesterday they started to dip down when that news came out. They actually fell below that $100 support for just a couple minutes, but the way that they held, I think, was pretty good. So honestly, that's great to see them up 4% today, Mike. I think a lot of traders probably were betting on this one to go down with that news coming out yesterday, but kind of like what we talked about in last night's video, it's probably not gonna break Square or Block now just because they came out with that. They're getting into so much other stuff, and they still have Cash App and all that stuff to back themselves up with. So yeah, I mean, I think it looks pretty good, Mike. And also they bounced off that $100 support. Like, can you get a better level to bounce off of?
No, you can't. You cannot. But yeah, I mean, looking at some of the other plays, it looks like Chewy's having a day too. CHWY. It's up just under 4%. It's a pretty good stock. I do like it for the long term. This is one of my longer term plays, but it's been struggling like a lot of other growth companies have been over the past couple months. But all in all, I think it's at a pretty good level, and I think it has growth potential.
Yeah, me too. And I love the way it formed that really good support down there, right around like $37. It hit down there and it just had a huge move right back to the upside on January 24th, which was great to see. And, Chewy's a pretty good online company. For anyone who doesn't know, Chewy, they pretty much focus on pets. It's almost like the Amazon for pets or dogs and cats and stuff like that. I know I've bought stuff for my fish on there, and people buy like dog food and all that type of stuff. And you can get like monthly subscriptions where they'll like deliver it to your door like every 2 weeks and different things like that. So it's definitely in a huge sector, Mike. And honestly, I feel like this one, you're getting it at a pretty good discount, especially given the sector and the type of stuff that they do. I think it'll be pretty solid for the longer term.
Yeah, like, to be completely honest, like, I really do like Chewy for the long term, and I'm going to hold my shares for the long term. But one slight concern I have about this one is Amazon. Amazon has definitely hurt a lot of other retailers, especially like brick and mortar retailers. But Chewy is mainly online. But Amazon is a very tough competitor. But one thing that kind of, I guess you can say, I don't know, is relieving to know is, like, let's say you were looking to buy like a specific computer part, Tom. Like sure, you can find something on Amazon, but like a lot of times you would just go to like Logitech or Corsair or like any other site that focuses on computers. You know what I mean? Like Newegg or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
so like that's kind of like how I feel with Chewy. Like, sure, does Amazon have things for pets? Absolutely, but it's like Chewy is kind of like the more specific retailer for that. On top of that, you can get like prescriptions for your pets and all that stuff. And then on top of that, like, the numbers don't lie. Like in 2018, Chewy's revenue was like 2.1 billion. In 2021, it was 7.1 billion. So it's just continuously growing. Their operating cash flows in the positive. Their quarterly revenue has been pretty consistent. So it's like they're bringing in some pretty good money, and then they only have a price to sales ratio of like 2.3. So it's like, I think it's at a pretty good level.
Yeah, me too. And like you mentioned, there's definitely lots of competitors, but hopefully they can like push past that. Like I know that Chewy is pretty good with advertising. I see them all over the place, and like if I like go buy some dog food, I know Chewy is definitely popping up on my banner ads all day long. So it's definitely good that they're marketing and stuff like that, which is great. But yeah, looking at it, their stock just needs to start recovering up a little bit more. Once they get up above $50 and they start forming a good support, I think it might start looking a lot better here on the chart. I think we just need a little bit more movement. And honestly, that next earnings report is probably going to be pretty crucial for them.
Yeah. And like another thing too is like some of the stocks that we talk about are in industries that can be sensitive to the economy. But like whether like the economy's great or the economy's terrible, people are always going to be buying things for their pets, and you always need dog food. Like your pets, you know what I mean? Like it's like I definitely feel like that sort of security with them, safety and security. So I like it in that sense, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. People are definitely going to have to get food for their dogs. I mean, that would be a sad scenario if the economy went south and someone's like, "Man, I can't feed the dog." But yeah, I mean,
No.
that would be terrible. I mean, I would almost feed the dog before I fed myself at that point. But I mean, wow. I mean, I hope Chewy does good though. Either way, I didn't mean to digress, but yeah, it's looking pretty solid here. And like you did say though, there is some competitors. We do have like PetSmart and Petco, still out there also. I know that they're kind of getting into the online businesses as well, but yeah, I still think Chewy's just dominating their sector. Obviously, like you said, Amazon's big too. And speaking about Amazon, Mike, they had those earnings earlier in the week, and looks like they're kind of approaching that 3,300 resistance again today. It's actually not looking terrible.
Indeed. So yeah, I know that PetSmart actually acquired Chewy, so that's pretty
Oh, did
big.
they?
But yeah, like technically they're separate companies, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, I know that PetSmart is definitely with Chewy, so that's good.
Yeah, that is good. That's even better now.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, looking at some other plays, I will say, let's see, it looks like Netflix is definitely having a little bit of a rough day, but it's not too bad. I meant to check in on Amazon because we were talking about them related to Chewy, and yeah, I mean, there's not really anything surprising with this one. I was kind of hoping for more movement.
Yeah, me too. Like it is kind of slow, but it is kind of approaching this resistance again. And since the middle of the day yesterday, it's kind of been up in a pretty major way. But obviously they need to start breaking out. They had that great move with their earnings. They formed that huge level up there at 3,300. They touched it multiple times. So if we break 3,300, I'll definitely be eyeing it up for a bit of a maybe a quick scalp or something like that. But it just depends on those Amazon options too. Sometimes they're not as liquid as we would like, but hopefully we can find some good ones.
Yep. All right, we'll see. So, let's see. I mean, Tom, are you seeing like any interesting movers or any plays or anything in the market?
Honestly, I've been looking on my watch list here and I've been seeing a lot of these like growth stocks just starting to look pretty good again today. Like we have Matterport starting to pop up in a pretty good way. Like the growth sector was really popping off this morning. It looks like it is starting to slow down as of now, but at market open, I mean, we had some pretty good runs out of Matterport, Square, Chewy, like we said. Even some of these companies like MasterCard are doing pretty well. Like look at this nice pop out of MasterCard and then even Visa. I think these are looking pretty good. Maybe for they're obviously not the biggest like dip buys right now, but for example, like if Visa ends up breaking out above like 235, I think they could start to go on a pretty good move. Same thing with MasterCard. If they break above $400 even, I think that could make for a nice move. So I'm definitely eyeing up those companies. And what's weird is like MasterCard and Visa, they were really tanking off there for a little while before going on this nice recovery.
No doubt. Alrighty. Let's see. We have Ravi saying SPY puts good for a day trade today with a question mark. So let's take a look. SPY puts. I'm gonna say no, and there's two reasons for this. The first reason is the implied volatility, and it's still falling. Like IV, it's just tanking down, and you don't really want to be buying too many options when IV is moving the way it is. But it's not like crazy high, to be fair. Like it's not like IV's at like 70% right now. Like it's only at, what is that, like I guess you could say 16 to 17%, which isn't too bad, I guess. But another thing is like the market can fall, right? The market can definitely fall. It's been very volatile, but is it worth the risk? Like, is it going to be a winning trade over the long term? And I would say no. The market is running up, and I just really hate to like fight the market, and especially like when it has a lot of momentum. So, SPY puts can work out, but in my opinion, it's not a trade that would consistently work over the long term in this type of setup.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work too well either. I mean, obviously, if it's a quick in and out day trade, I think it can be pretty good if you're eyeing it up at a certain resistance level. Kind of like right now, we're right at 456 and the stock's starting to fall down a little bit. Maybe if you would have got a good entry here, it could have been a good, like, super quick scalp play. To be honest, though, I don't know why you would even do options at that point. Like realistically, if you're trying to scalp like the S&P 500 for something that fast, honestly, just go trade the futures market or something like that. I think that would be, it would obviously make for a little bit better of scalping opportunities there. You don't have to worry about the IV as much and stuff like that. And those contracts will pay off pretty well as long as you have the timing correct. But just keep in mind, like Mike said, will this work out over the long term? Probably not. You have to be almost spot on with your timing. And then at this point, the S&P 500, sure, the SPY is falling down, but it's only down like 50 cents or something. Like you're going to need a pretty big drop today to get a good gain out of those. So I don't know. It's not a play for me either. I do feel like the SPY is a little overextended intraday. Like we might start pulling back like we're seeing, but that doesn't mean though that puts are going to necessarily be the way to go. Honestly, like maybe as you start to fall down, maybe like eye up a good support. And then if you see it start to bounce, maybe it'd be a good time to get into another call play after you see a bounce on some support here.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, like the SPY can fall. Puts might work today, but it just doesn't mean that it's a winning strategy over the long term. But he also asked about Peloton, Tom, and potentially puts for Peloton for next week. So Peloton's down 3% today. It's up a ton, but still, I mean, the IV on this one is insane. 120%. That's insane. So I would definitely say no. Again, Peloton can fall, but you need one giant move just to break even. So let's say you got like the puts for next week, and I don't know, let's say you got like the 34 strike puts. Those cost over $200 right now, which is expensive for a $34 stock. So your break even price would be 32, which I just, especially with all like the takeover rumors with Amazon, Apple, Nike, and the new CEO just announced too. I wouldn't be surprised if he had some like really positive statements too. So again, like it can work, but I really don't think it's a strategy that will work over the long term.
Yeah, I don't either, especially like on a setup like Peloton with all those rumors and stuff. It's just not the smartest move right now. And with that IV so high, it's just going to be almost impossible. And like he said, he said he's looking for those puts for next week. So like honestly, like if I was going to play puts that expired next week, I don't think I would hold the option longer than almost like 30 minutes to an hour, maybe a couple of hours, just because that expiration is so close and that IV is so high that you're gonna have to catch a move very fast. So, yeah, I don't think I would trade that either, Mike. And if I was gonna look at Peloton puts for the next week or so, I think I would go further out and maybe get a Peloton put that expired in maybe like a month or 2 months or something like that, just so the movement's better. But either way, though, I don't think that puts are the way to go at this time.
Yep. And we have George saying, damn, I didn't expect this big of a sell-off at end phase. I know. What's going on, Tom?
Yeah, it looks like it's turning back around, kind of like what I said when the stream started this morning. The stock was already up 25%. Honestly, I was kind of expecting it to slow down yesterday, but those earnings were so explosive. I guess that buyers just kept coming in. But, I guess we're finally coming back to reality here. We're back down to only being up 12%. And, the stock's still doing well. I will say we're still holding right around $160. And even though we're down, like 13% is still a pretty good pop, especially out of a stock like Enphase that has been beaten down so drastically the past few months. Honestly, like Enphase formed a pretty good inverse head and shoulders pattern here, and we came right back up to that neckline right around, or I should say that resistance right around 185.
Yeah, well, the good news is that it's still up 13%. The bad news is that it was up like over 20%. So I don't know. I still like it for the long term, though. I think it'll be pretty good.
Yeah, and honestly, like if we're being realistic, whenever a stock's up 25%, it's probably not the best time to start buying calls on it. Kind of like what we're saying with Peloton. It's just the chances of it continuing up are probably pretty low at that point.
Yeah, true. Fair point. Another stock I was looking at was Win, Tom. Win and LVS have been struggling for months, and they're finally popping back up. They're not doing anything too crazy right now, but still, like, they're looking pretty good. I would have to take a further look at their fundamentals for a potential long-term play, but for the short term, I mean, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think their daily setup is looking fantastic. I mean, they're bouncing off that $80 support. They're almost starting to break out around $90. And honestly, if they start to get back up above 100, it would be huge for a win. So definitely eye this one up, guys. I think this one will be a pretty good longer term play. Like you said, those fundamentals are going to be key. And one other thing to look at, Mike, is they were going down a lot because they were also subject to a lot of that bad China news, while a lot of that stuff was going on with regulators. And I know stuff was going on with like gambling in China and just different regulations revolving around that. So definitely look at these stocks, but I feel like that Win and LVS are too established to just like go out of business anytime soon. So I feel like it'll be a pretty good pickup, at least for shares. For options, it's honestly like the IV is pretty low. It might be a pretty good time to get some leaps.
Yeah, that's true. I know
It's
it
not
was really
terrible.
high like a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. But yeah, it's not bad. Earnings is soon too, so we'll see what happens. I would still prefer like selling put options, but I know what you mean. Like leaps aren't too bad at this level and with where the IV is.
Yeah, that's the only reason I'm saying that, just because that IV is down around 50%. Whenever that IV was up at like 72, 75%, back at like the beginning of December, it was definitely, honestly, I'm sure a lot of people were looking at it right on that $80 support there, but that IV was just so high. Like, honestly, you might have won on those first couple of days, but the way that the IV started falling down, if you would have held those, I mean, you probably would have got clapped pretty hard. So hopefully this stock just starts to run in general. Shares will obviously be the better way to go, especially for the longer term, or like Mike said, just sell a put down here. And honestly, like, what are we at, $92? Like, you could sell like a 90 strike put, I'm sure, and get some pretty good premiums.
Yep. All right. So another one I have my eyes on is Disney, Tom. They report earnings after the bell. It looks like they're having a little bit of a pre-earnings run-up. It's up like 1.5% right now. It's been slightly uptrending over the past couple days and the past couple weeks. Its lows were around like 130 like a couple weeks ago, and now it's at almost 145. So I do like it. It's definitely one of my favorite long-term plays. Disney's it's an uncomparable brand. It is innovating for the metaverse. They filed a couple patents, which is great. They're also getting into sports betting with their ESPN platform. Hopefully the deal goes to DraftKings, but if not, it might go to Caesars, but that's okay too. And then on top of that, they have Disney Plus, and they're always cooking up something new.
Yeah, they are. And I even know that this year they're supposed to come out with like a new Buzz Lightyear movie and maybe have a few other like shows in the works. So hopefully Disney starts to really get that type of recovery that we're waiting for. I hope that their guidance is good, Mike. That's the thing that worries me the most with Disney is because, we saw Netflix unfortunately take a huge tumble whenever they reported earnings. And I'm just, I'm scared because Disney is in that streaming sector. That doesn't mean that they're going to, pull a Netflix and drop like that or anything, but it just lingers in the back of my mind and does worry me. Hopefully that's already priced in because Disney fell down with Netflix. So hopefully it's all priced in, but it still does worry me with the earnings coming out, Mike. Obviously, whenever you see a company like Netflix drop whatever it was, 25, 30%, I mean, that's just so explosive for such a large company. Like no one would have ever expected that. And I really hope Disney ends up holding up.
Yeah, I would like to think it's priced in, but we'll see. The market's crazy.
That was a pretty big drop there from 150 to 130. So I'm praying it was.
Yeah. Hopefully, like they come out with some earnings beats, maybe some nice statements about the metaverse in the future, and some things like that. And I believe I also saw some things with Disney getting into the NFT game. Let me take a look. Disney NFT.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Disney is hiring NFT experts to lead its investments in NFTs. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's great, obviously. I mean, anything in the NFTs can be pretty good right now. I know, lots of, I should say, like, lots of people / institutions have been really getting into that. I know that, like, DraftKings has been getting into it. And, Tom Brady started that company, Autograph.io, which is the company that DraftKings uses for that. So that's great to see. And overall, that's it's a weird sector. Obviously NFTs some of them are obviously worse than others. I know that like some big YouTubers have been coming out with NFTs even and tons of other stuff. So it can definitely be interesting, Mike, but I'm surprised Disney hasn't done it already. You know what I mean? Like I want to get like a 1 of 100 Mickey Mouse or something. Come on.
Yeah, true. You know how those big corporations are, though. You need, like, everyone to agree for something to go into place. But, I don't know.
Especially for, like, an old school company. It's pretty, I guess it does make sense. Disney's kind of old school in the way they do things, so.
But they do innovate, though. They're
oh, yeah.
They're aggressive in filing their patents for, like, the metaverse. Like, they're, it was like a virtual reality, like, customized experience for when you go to their parks. And I'm sure they have a lot of cool things in the works, too. And then they're also open to sports betting now with ESPN, so I think they'll do great over the long term. And I just feel like there's so many ways to monetize off their off the crazy brand that they've built.
Yeah, there is, and to be honest, like they own so many patents and stuff like that already, and like they get so many royalties for everyone using their characters and everything. So yeah, they're definitely not going to go anywhere. I feel like this one has been one of the better opportunities for a dip buy over the past few months. And what's really nice about Disney is it even moved good on technicals. They filled that they filled that big gap on the daily chart finally, which was great. They bounced around that 1,000 SMA, which was pretty close to that 130 support. So yeah, I mean, even the technicals are looking decent.
Yep. Alrighty. And then we have Chris saying good morning. What do you think about Ford in the short term? Let's take a look. Ford has been all over the place. Let me just look at a couple different charts really quickly. It looks like they bounced off 17 in a pretty major way, and they're attempting to hold that 18 support. In my opinion, it's not bad for like a short-term play to the upside. Let me take a look at their IV and options pricing. Their IV's still it's still coming down, so that kind of works against you, but for a short-term play, I think it looks decent for like an upside play.
Yeah, it could be. I'm a little worried about Ford. You know, they had that terrible move with earnings, and you know they're kind of failing to break out above some of these resistances today. I'm hoping to see them start to get a nice recovery back over the next couple of days. It's just, man, these earnings have been tough. I mean, look at them flying down here over the past couple of weeks, and they had a pretty good dead cat bounce setup going on before they finally went on this final tumble here. But I definitely feel you, Mike. It looks like 17 is a pretty big support there that they ended up bouncing off of. And, you know, they had a lot of movement the last time they touched $17 as well, having a few consolidation days there on the daily chart. So 17 does seem like a pretty good level. And, you know, with the way it's been going down, like pretty much straight down from 26 all the way to 17, I could see it possibly getting a little bit of a uptrend over the next couple days too. But, you know, for the next like couple of months, I don't know if this one's going to recover back or not yet. They were so explosive this year, Mike. Like, honestly, ever since the lows of COVID, let's see what they're still up. Like, it's kind of insane to see some of these numbers here. So from the low of COVID to now, they're still up 348% over. That's like almost like 2 years worth of movement. Like, that's pretty insane.
It is. Another thing is like it's decent right now for the short term. I would not classify it as like a grade A setup, but I think it's decent. One thing I do like is that it is bouncing off the support in a pretty major way. One thing I don't like is that like money's not really flowing into Ford right now. Like if we look across like a couple different stocks, like we have money flowing into Enphase. Like it was up 25% and it's been uptrending for a couple weeks. We have money flowing into Chewy. It's been on a nice uptrend lately. We have money flowing into Penn, PENN. We have money flowing into DraftKings lately. We have capital flowing into BLNK. But like for Ford, I think the story is a little bit different right now. So it's decent, but it's not great.
Yeah, and the main thing to look at to me is just like that daily chart. You know, like it's honestly, Ford was doing so well and they were getting so explosive. You know, it was honestly becoming a pretty big hype stock for a while. You know, like people who mainly trade like AMC and GME and stuff like that were looking at Ford and they were like, holy crap. I mean, look at the way this stock's been going up, you know, 100% this year. This is pretty insane. But yeah, I mean, looking at it though, it looks like it just had to come back down a little bit. Like we always say, Mike, like what goes up generally starts to come back down. And that doesn't mean it's going to, you know, crash and burn all the way back down to $11. But, you know, you always have to just expect a little bit of pullbacks. And I think that's just a bit of a phase that Ford's in right now. But once they start recovering back, I mean, it'll be another great explosive move, in my opinion. You know, they've been investing in that EV sector and they've been getting a lot of good things going. So hopefully they get some hype back soon.
Yep. Alrighty. Then we have Ravi saying, bought Facebook calls as a recovery play for next week's expiration. Currently down 20%. Should I hold or book the loss? So we can't make that decision for you, but if I was in your shoes, it really depends on your strike price. So if you could let us know that strike price, that would be very beneficial. So yeah, just let us know that strike price and we'll definitely come back to this question. And then we have Raymond saying, YUMC missed earnings and their shares go up. What gives? I think this is the, hold on. Is this the company that's behind like Pizza Hut and Taco Bell and all that? Let me see. I think it is, Tom. Hold on. Maybe it's not. Trying to think. I'm trying to look it up.
I know that Yum Brands is behind a lot of stuff, but yeah. I don't know about Yum China. I'm not sure if that's the same.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I have not looked into their earnings report, so I'm not 100% sure with this one, Raymond. One thing that normally happens in situations like this is guidance. So, like for example, let's say a company reports like a pretty bad loss this quarter, but they're like, next quarter we're gonna bring in a ton of money. Those types of forward-looking statements can be a complete game changer for a stock to the upside or the downside, because sometimes you'll have a company smash their earnings report and then fall down because the company expects a slowdown in the upcoming quarter. So that's normally what happens.
Yeah, I think it's honestly a pretty crazy setup, Mike. Like, look at how it fell down and then flew right back up. I'm glad you were able to explain that a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, the stock is just all over the place. And with it being in China, it's probably going to be a pretty crazy play. It does worry me a little bit that it's a China play. And with it being a China play, I feel like I would just rather get a better Chinese company, maybe like Baba or something like that. And actually, I didn't mean to, look at Baba and see it breaking out, but man, it's going on a tear today.
Yeah, we have a lot of comments related to Baba. We have Ant saying, is it too late to get into Baba? We have kids saying, morning, let's go Baba. Made money from Tom Starbucks. So Baba's looking pretty good, and I like this setup.
Yeah, it's looking really great, actually. I love the way it's breaking 124. This was actually, hang on, I believe it was. Yeah, this was my free day trade today. I actually had posted if they break above 124, I believe it could be a pretty good day trading setup. And if we look at that 1 minute chart, I mean, well, if Thinkorswim will load, can you, oh, I'm glad you could still hear me, Mike. Usually when that happens, it lags out. But yeah, you can see once we finally passed 124 today, the stock just consolidated and ended up going up in a pretty major way. So that would have ended up working out pretty well there as a day trade. And yeah, it's very explosive, Mike. I'm so happy to see this out of the China plays.
Yeah, there we go. It's about time, Tom. Baba's been doing nothing but falling for months. It's about time it finally rises, but I guess it's presenting a decent buying opportunity for the long term if you're comfortable with the risks associated with Baba. I am, but not everyone else is. So, it's a unique opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. It's pretty unique. And honestly, like the way it's bouncing on these bottom supports is so nice. Like we've had 1, 2, 3, almost 4 touches on $110. And we're just starting to move up in a major way. So I think it just looks like a pretty good pattern here. Hopefully we start to go up above 140 and then start to fill that gap back up towards 160. That would obviously be best case scenario. And Mike, as this stock's been down, like we've been seeing big players continually buy into here. And we even saw Charlie Munger like double down on his position down here. So I think that gives investors a lot of confidence, and it might be another reason why this stock's holding up.
True. Alrighty, so back to Ravi's question related to the Facebook play. So it looks like he's holding the $222.50 strike call options for next week. So Tom, he's in the money, which is pretty good. Next week's expiration, that's a little bit risky. This is a tough one, Tom, because he's in the money. I mean, IV's high, but then again, IV doesn't affect short-term expirations as much. So let me just pull up the Vega values really quickly. Let's see. So Vega, let me go to Vega, 22.50. Yeah, I mean, Vega is not playing too much of a role into your strike, so I think I would hold it, to be honest. Like, it is risky, but Facebook's down a ton. The market's rebounding in a pretty nice way, so I would hold it. But then again, like we're literally talking about a play that expires next week, so it's pretty risky. Another thing you can do instead is like you can hold your current play, and a smart idea is you can sell to open like the 240 strike calls for that same expiration, and you'll pick up like an extra $200, and you'll kind of combat IV a little bit, and you just like hedge yourself. So like think about it this way: if you just hold your current play, you sell to open the 240 calls for your same expiration, you'll take about $200 off the table in terms of risk, and I guess you do leave you do cut out some potential upside, but I think it's worth the investment.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good hold in general too. I think it looks pretty solid here. If we look at Facebook on the max daily chart, Mike, they are bouncing right on some major support levels. And when I say major, I mean like this stock has bounced off of this level tons of other times, right around this 220 support. We've had multiple huge moves off of this to the downside and the upside. So I think it's a good level to buy. We're just below that 1,000 SMA. And I feel like Facebook, it fell with earnings, and I wanted to give it just a few days to digest before, finally like looking at a position for myself. And I think that it's honestly a really good time right now. I'm going to be eyeing up shares before we pop above, hopefully before we pop above like 225 or like 228 in a major way again. But yeah, I mean, it's looking like a good play here. I think it's good on this bottom support. We're right around that SMA. And, if this stock does start to turn around, let's say it just bounces off the support even for a couple of days and comes back up and retests 230, that'll be pretty good for you with those short-term expirations.
Yep. Alrighty. Then with the next comment, we have, let's see, we have Iranical saying, SPY looks good for a day trade call. What do you think? Let's take a look. SPY, it's just like, I know earlier in the stream we said no to a day trade put. I just don't think like day trading any option on the SPY today is a good idea. It's just like IV, it's not insanely high, but it's not at a great level. And then more important than anything else, like the SPY's up 1% today. So it's like, I just feel like you can get a much better setup playing an individual stock for a day trade option right now. The SPY is kind of stagnant, and now it's like, all right, we have some major companies like, let's say, Apple up 0.37%. So Apple's not moving. And then on another note, we have Tesla tanking down right now. Like, it's still technically up, but it's tanking down. But then we have a lot of other companies up. So it's like you have a bunch of little companies up and some of the major companies down. So it's just like there's not clear momentum in either direction. And that's like the worst case scenario for like SPY intraday options day trades. So again, I just think it would be much better to go with an individual company today.
Yeah, that's probably a really good idea. You know, obviously some of these companies are starting to move in some major ways to the upside and the downside. So you can probably find, you know, just like what's moving and then just play that. Like you mentioned, you know, Tesla's having a pretty big rejection here around that 950 resistance. I'm really curious to see how Tesla does over the next couple of days, Mike. Like, they've been really consolidating here for a while, and I'm a little bit worried. Like, if they end up getting rejected, it's not going to be good. I'm hoping they end up, you know, breaking some of these resistances back to the upside. That would obviously be best case scenario here, but yeah, it's a little worrisome with the way they keep falling at that resistance there.
Yep. Alrighty. We have Kathy saying, do you think Nvidia will make a run before earnings? This might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think so. Like, yeah, we might see something little, but I'm not too bullish on Nvidia for the short term. They're a great company. I like them for the long term, but for the short term, I'm not the biggest fan. I know that's a pretty unpopular opinion, but I'm definitely going to stick with it. Their earnings are in a couple of weeks, or let me pull up their exact date. Their earnings are on the 16th, so next week. So we'll see.
Yeah, and honestly, like Nvidia, from high to the low here, it had a 40% drop. I mean, that's pretty big. You know, like whenever people are looking at stocks to buy for the longer term, you know, like we're looking at stocks like Facebook that have fallen 40% and, you know, they're having issues. And then we're looking at stocks like Nvidia that are on fire falling 40%, and then we're not wanting to buy the dip. And I don't know. I feel like Nvidia is a pretty good buy if you can get it, you know, maybe down around like 215 or like 220, maybe 225. Right here, I think it's a little bit over valued a little bit, but I don't know. You know, these companies like AMD and Nvidia, they have been on fire the past couple of years, and you know, obviously, I guess that fire can start to slow down. But I mean, honestly, they're just in such a good sector. I don't know if these ones will ever stop.
That's my concern. Like, I want to have exposure to like Nvidia and AMD for the long term. And like the thing is right now, like Nvidia is trading at a price to sales ratio of 26. That is huge. And that's after the giant drop. Like right now the stock's at 255. A couple months ago it was at 346, and still a price sales ratio of over 26. PE ratio of 79. I'm not too concerned about the PE because that can easily be manipulated. But if you're concerned with PE, 78 for a company like Nvidia is insane. But then again, you know, they print money. Their revenue is constantly growing. It's probably going to continue to grow because everything Tom uses it. Everything from just your normal everyday computer to stuff in the gaming industry to cryptocurrencies to AI to everything uses it. So like part of me is like I'm stuck between the point where I'm not trying to overpay for this company. The price to sales ratio is over 26, which is crazy. But then again, are we ever really going to get a great deal with Nvidia? And I doubt that's gonna happen too. So for me, I'm just gonna wait this one out.
Yeah, and then they had that split like last year, like with Apple and Tesla too, which was kind of crazy to see. Like I can't believe that they split. Like before the split, I wonder like where they'd be at now. They'd probably be like they would have been over $1,000 a share if whenever they were at 346. So that's just insane. I mean, I can't believe the growth that some of these companies like Tesla, Nvidia, AMD, like some of these chip companies slash just futuristic companies have been really going off the past couple of years. And yeah, it's insane. I don't want to overpay for it either, but at the same time, it's like, man, like I want to grab some. Obviously, it would have been better to grab some a couple of years ago, back whenever it was super low. But it's always easier to look back at it in hindsight. But honestly, like it's just like what Mike said. You just don't want to overpay, and some of those ratios, like you said, Mike, that's pretty insane. Like I'm used to seeing a lot lower than that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But then we have Kathy also saying she's looking at BLNK and Matterport. Support and resistance, please. So, Tom, would you mind giving us some levels on these two?
Yeah, Blink. Let's check out Blink. It looks like over the past like 5 or 6 days, it's not too telling here, but it looks like as we start to rise with Blink, we're going to be coming up into a pretty big resistance right around like $22.50. We've had a few bounces off of that, and honestly we almost touched that at the upper edge of today before coming back down over the past few minutes. So I would say 2250 is going to be a big resistance. After 2250, I'm really going to look at 25 what is this, let's see, 26 actually to the upside as a good resistance. Keep in mind that Blink is all over the place, so it's going to have a lot of volatility probably, but honestly, I'm seeing 22.50 and 26 is good resistance, and then a good support is going to be $20 even. I think $20 even and then $18 after that are going to be the next two major levels to look at, but $20 even is so large, Mike. That's just such a big psychological level too.
True. All right, and then what do you have for Matterport?
Matterport has been on fire today, especially earlier on. I know it's been coming back down now, but it was really flying up. Looking at them on the 180-day 1 hour, they have a big lower support right around $7.50. They've gotten pretty close to it a couple times, like a couple days ago. They got within just a few cents before rising back up. And then as far as like a short-term resistance, they have a pretty defined level right around $10 even. And that's going to be a big psychological level, just like $20 was on the last one. So looking at Matterport, I would say $10 would be the big resistance, and $7.50 to $8 will be the major support to look at. If they break above 10, I think they could start to have a pretty good recovery here.
Sounds good. All right, and then let's see. George said SNDL keeps finding new daily highs. Yeah, it's running. It's up 15%. 15%, Tom. So maybe we're getting closer to that $1 threshold than we think.
Yeah, we are. I mean, look at this. It's definitely a long way away from $1, but hey, at least it's starting to break that 58-cent pre-market high. Like I said earlier, I mean, we'll have to almost rise to like almost 100% for this stock to get back to $1. Like, that's pretty crazy to think about, but I hope it happens. The marijuana stocks are doing decent. We had CGC pop up with earnings today, and honestly, I haven't read into the earnings, but if I read about it and then they are expecting to have a good 2022, like if their guidance was good or something, I think that could be really good news for the overall marijuana sector. But we'll have to see, because lately their guidance has been terrible. So looking at it, I think that longer term outlook is going to be the main thing to watch here. But yeah, I mean, SNDL is doing amazing in the short term. Hopefully they get up there, Mike. And I don't know, like what can this company do to try to bring their valuation up? Like they can maybe try to innovate, or maybe like get some deals, maybe like acquire some smaller marijuana companies or something, but they need to do something soon.
Yeah, that is true. They need that hype. But yeah. Then we have Z saying DCFC, possible first big supernova of 2022. So it's up 66%. Looks like, I don't know. I don't really follow this company. Looks like they have some recent news, but I don't know. I don't really follow this one too much.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see that this company is like a tritium stock. And Mike, like I actually looked it up and I just wanted to bring up a quick just a quick article here, and we can see like that the Motley Fool had made an article about them, and it looks like this company has something to do with EV charging. I've never heard of them before, but as we scroll down, we can see that it says Tritium announced that it's opening a new manufacturing facility in Lebanon, Texas, at which it plans to manufacture DC fast charging equipment for refueling electric vehicles. So it sounds pretty good, but I will say I'm a little worried about this, Mike, because while they are in that electric vehicle charging sector.
Hey there, Tom. I think we lost connection to Tom. Let's see. Tom, let me know if you could hear me. Uh-oh. Come on, Tom. See, sorry about this, guys. I'm trying to get Tom back on the live. Tom has perished. Hunter says Tom has perished. Come on, Tom. I think he just lost some connection. Let's see. Alrighty. So I'm going to get Tom back really quickly. Give me 1 second, guys.
Hey, I am back, guys. Are we still there?
Tom is back. Welcome back, Tom. All right.
Yes, the internet came back for us. Thank God.
Gosh, I mean, Tom, does your internet just say just pick random times to go out, or what happens?
I don't know. I mean, I can't explain it. I mean, my internet is CHTR, so I guess we can complain to them, but I don't know. I will say it's been snowing a bit here lately, and maybe it has something to do with that. I know that the snow is now melting, and maybe power lines or something are hit. But
something.
I mean, I can't explain it. All I know is that sometimes it it goes in and out. I'm sure everyone's does sometimes, but
yeah.
Man, it seems like the timing is so bad. Every time that we go to stream, it has some lag. So short CHTR, guys. I mean, that's going to be the way to go. I mean, it looks like, well, actually, it's been taking a big dip anyways. So, but getting back to the stock, Mike, it was what was the ticker? DFCF?
Close. DCFC.
DCFC. Yeah, I actually had a pretty good thought about this company right as I lost connection. And I don't know, were you able to see the article I brought up?
Yes.
So we have the article here, and they're pretty much showing that they're getting into the EV charging sector. And the thing that worries me about this, Mike, is that we already have a few stocks like Blink Charging, ChargePoint. Tesla is pretty big with their own chargers. So it worries me a little bit that this stock is getting into a pretty saturated market, but I hope they come out with some pretty good advancements.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of this company ever, and like you said, they're going into a very competitive market, so I don't know. I mean, maybe it's like a decent stock to trade for the short term off of hype, but it's not really a play for me. So if you're in it, I hope it continues to pop for you. But yeah, Tom, I think we covered everything. So do you have any last minute plays?
As far as last minute plays say, let's just check back in on a couple of these big runners, because I know Enphase is it's still pulling back, unfortunately. I was hoping to see it maybe form a good support down there. Looks like RUN is kind of bouncing off that 100 SMA today, or just taking a little bit of an intraday move back to the upside. Hopefully this one keeps moving back up. And Mike, another one that was pretty interesting was Square. I will say, this one started really running over the past few minutes, breaking out in a pretty major way. We're honestly almost back up to that resistance around $110. Like, Square's having a pretty good day, especially like we talked about after that terrible Apple news yesterday.
True. Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for joining. We had a pretty fun time on the stream today. It's always good to see the market going to the upside. A lot of the growth plays are looking good too, so it's great to see. Before we wrap up the stream, I just want to thank everyone personally for joining, so let's get to that. So thank you so much. I'm Fierce, George, Vicky, Hunter, Sal, Bill, Ravi, Chris, Jerry, Iranical, Ant85, Kid, Kathy, Z, Troy, and I think that's everyone. So thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you so much, Head, for joining. We really appreciate all of you guys, and hopefully this market holds up. But besides that, we hope you guys have a great rest of your day.